I'm very excited to introduce my best friend. For 38 years we've been studio mates, and she inspired the Sacred Mirrors. She named the Sacred Mirrors. She is the co-founder of the Chapel of Sacred Mirrors, and an amazing artist who I really admired in art school when we met. And so I've been following her work, and her biggest fan, and she's my favorite artist, is Allyson Grey.
Thank you very much. That's very sweet. What a nice introduction. Alex and I met in art school 38 years ago in Boston, Massachusetts, and he was the most interesting, and has always been the most interesting person I've ever known. And his work was, very interesting in art school. He was doing performances, I was doing installation art, and our work was a little off from the rest, and I think I was just fascinated by your work. And so, yeah, we fell in love on the first date and never left. That's what happened. Alex was doing LSD in my apartment. He did it for the first time in my apartment, and the next day we went out and talked about it. And I think the thing that resonated with us was the spiritual opening that it was for us. And those were, the mid-'70s. It was very highly politically charged in America and not so much spiritually charged. And so to have someone talking about their spiritual opening in the context of psychedelics was definitely an attractor, but so much more, obviously. And so we have a studio together. We've always painted in the same, loft, vast area, but we look at each other's work all the time, talk to each other about each other's work all the time. So it's just natural that we would be collaborative and influential on each other's work. So that turns out to be the case. But I'm Alex's biggest fan too, #1 fan. Alex and I, when we met, we built a loft. That's the first thing we did, was building. So we've always been builders. And then soon thereafter, we both had to go to work. So Alex went to work at Harvard Medical School. He was a designer of exhibitions on the history of medicine and disease, and he also worked in the morgue. So he had the opportunity to dissect, or at least see the dissection of bodies and prepare the bodies for dissection, because he was working at the medical school, not a medical student himself. But out of that, he became a medical illustrator, and soon thereafter, I became his rep. So I went out and got the jobs for Alex to do the medical illustration. And then some years later, we had our one and only, Zena Lotus Grey, and she was born 13 years after we married, by absolute choice. Pregnant the first time we tried, and tried not to every other time. And we just decided, in my advanced 30s, that we wanted to have one, and so we had Zena. And she's been an actor all her life and has made 10 films, and you can find out more about ZenaGrey.com, yourself, because she's in lots of movies, and she loves being an actress and lives in Hollywood. So that's her dream, and she's following it. She's following her bliss.
You should talk about your work, about your paintings.
Okay. All right. So, as I say, we met in art school. I have always been a painter. I show my work. I sell my work. I've had major exhibitions, and I've had major commissions. But my work is very different from Alex in that it's abstract, and it comes from the same place. It comes from the same inspiration, which is the inspiration of higher consciousness and altered states. The things that we see in our altered state of consciousness, I happen to see abstraction. I come from the Jewish tradition, and in the Jewish tradition, it's a non-iconic tradition, and the decision or the choice to make art about the spiritual led me immediately to not only abstraction but also secret writing, because the Jewish religion is so emphasis on writing and knowledge and secret knowledge. So anyway, that's my work, and it's very labor intensive, much like Alex's is, very spectral, with colors that people always say resonate between our work. And yeah, and so my work is about chaos, order, and secret writing. Chaos being the material world, which is order plus entropy. Everything's falling apart, and all the systems are falling apart. Order, which is the bliss world, where all things are interconnected and made of light. And secret writing, which is all the creative manifestation that we create, all the symbols that we make out in the world. This is a symbol. My gray hair is a symbol. My earrings are everything in the material world is a symbol. So my work is about chaos, order, and secret writing.
And it's part of the temple that we're working on right now. The Antheon is a sanctuary of visionary art that will house the work of many artists from around the world, but will also feature elements that have been part of Allysons. The secret writing,
Right.
for instance, is a mantra that is woven around the building entirely, and her works will also be throughout the chapel and throughout the Antheon. And so this is a project, the Chapel of Sacred Mirrors, that we've been working on for a number of years. From 1985 was our vision that this work of art, the Sacred Mirrors, inspired by Allyson, should, it was on our first MDMA trip, actually, and we both saw a vision of a temple, a round room where the Sacred Mirrors were, and we were about to sell them. The guy actually who was buying them gave us the ecstasy.
But it was legal in those days.
Yeah.
It was a legal therapeutic pharmaceutical. And we do these experiences lying in our bed with our eyes closed, in darkness, just to go inside and see what we see. And we both saw this temple that we wanted to build. And it's been the path that we've followed together through all the years and made so many friends and community around us. We were so isolated. And now we have a church in the Hudson Valley of New York, and we're all of our community members and all over the world are helping to build this temple.
So if you'd like to find out more about the Antheon project or the Chapel of Sacred Mirrors that we've been working on with community there in the Hudson Valley of New York, you can log on to CoSM.org, COSM.org, and ORG, and find out about what's coming up. If you're coming to the Hudson Valley area or to New York, we're very accessible by the train and easy pilgrimage, and come see what stage of the development of the temple grounds that we're at.